Here today we are going to read a math story, Cut Down to Size at High Noon, a Math Adventure, by Scott Sundby, illustrated by Wayne Guillen. So this book in particular, we are going to enjoy the story, but also talk a little bit about ratios and how you can make something bigger or smaller by using those. So here we go, high noon. If I start at the beginning, that would help. At first glance, Cowlick looked just like any other small frontier town. The people who lived there looked just like average, everyday folk. That is, until their hats came off. Look at these hats. Love their hair. The person responsible was Louis Quatorze. Louis was originally from France. Rumor had it that he was once the hair cutter to the king, but an accidental nip of a royal ear had made it necessary for Louis and his family to leave the country. Louis's hair creations were the pride of Cowlick. Also, I enjoy this because a cowlick is the term when you have a bit of hair that wants to curl and doesn't match the rest. The key to Louis's fantastic haircuts was scale drawing. Louis measured a life-size thing, then used the measurements to create an exact drawing of it, only smaller. Based on the drawing, Louis cut and sculpted and brushed and combed until voila! You had a cow on your cranium or a hog on your noggin. So here he has a drawing of a cow. This is a Jersey cow specifically, and he made all the measurements here, the top of the forehead to the withers, the length of the tail, all the measurements, right? You'll notice also he's using graph paper. Mrs. D loves graph paper. So scale down steps. Measure the life-size object. Decide what scale to use, such as 4 inches equals 1 square. Divide to reduce the parts equally, so a 48-inch tail, 48 divided by 4, equals 12 squares. Use the scale measurements to make a small scale drawing. So here, he's taken these big measurements and made a scale drawing with the cow right here. And the ratio being used on this one is 1 square equals 4 inches. So it's a 1 to 4 ratio, 1 square for every 4 inches in reality. Today, Louis told Doc Lane, I think I will give you something especially useful. What's it going to be? Asked Doc. Just wait and see, said Louis, with a mysterious smile. I guarantee you'll like it. What's on his drawing there? Bald eagle. That looks pretty spectacular. And he was right. Doc Lane was mighty pleased with his new haircut, especially when it rained, keeping his head dry. Daisy Jenkins always asked for just the usual, Louis. Daisy knew that you never got the usual when Louis cut your hair. But of course, laughed Louis good-naturedly. So here you've got Mom with the carriage, and then each of the kids has a horse like they're pulling the carriage. Daisy and her 3 children all got something out of the ordinary, just as she had expected. One morning, as Louis cut and Harry swept up the clippings, the door to the shop burst open. There stood a stranger, all dressed in black. In a voice that sounded like gravel beneath a boot, he said, Name's Buzzsaw Bart. I've heard a tell of your fancy French hair cutting, and I don't like it one bit. I want my hair cut the way I like it, and I'll tell you exactly how to do it, Buzzsaw demanded with a sneer. Then he let loose a challenging laugh that echoed through the room like a midnight thunderstorm. Now, no one told Louis how to cut hair. He needed complete artistic freedom. Depending on his mood, you might leave his shop with a bluebird or a vulture atop your head. Louis wasn't about to let this buzzsaw character push him around. "I've never seen you around these parts before. What brings you to Cowlick, stranger?" he asked. "I'm here to set up shop," Buzzsaw smirked. "I'm a barber. In fact, I'm the best barber in the West." "There's room for only one of us in this town," Louis said defiantly. "I reckon we'll just have to see about that," Buzzsaw snarled. "Meet me on Main Street at high noon for a showdown. Then we'll see who sticks around and who hits the trail." "You will," said Louis. "No, you will," said Buzzsaw. "I'll stay," said Louis. "No, you'll leave," said Buzzsaw. And with that, Buzzsaw Bart stomped out. I really like this one here because it reminds me of the Mexican flag. Louis snipped and cut until there was a falcon battling a snake of bad luck on Bad Luck Billy's head. "Gosh, Louis, he's a mean one. What are you going to do?" Bad Luck Billy asked. "Do?" Louis laughed. "Why, I'm going to cut that dull-edged varmint down to size." As the sun rose in the sky and high noon approached, all of Cowlick turned out onto Main Street, milling around like a bunch of restless cattle before a storm. The rustling and whispering died down when Louis and Buzzsaw stepped out into the middle of the street and squinted at each other. There's a lot of hair flying in that photo there. Then, as the sun reached its zenith, the two men strode toward each other until they were face to face, their hands poised above their holsters. The town clock struck 12. Faster than a rattlesnake strikes, they drew their weapons. Not guns. Louis raised his scissors and started snipping and shearing furiously at Buzzsaw's hair. Buzzsaw started clipping and cropping Louis's hair with equal speed. Although the sun that day was blazing away in a clear blue sky, so much hair started to fly that soon it was as dark as a moonless night. Oh, I love the faces on these guys in this picture. The crowd tried to peer through the cloud of hair, but it was of no use. They'd just have to wait for the two to finish what they had started. And then, suddenly, the cutting stopped. Hair quietly fluttered onto the dusty street. When the air cleared, the crowd gasped in astonishment. The sheriff slowly stepped forward and held up two mirrors. Buzzsaw and Louis gazed silently at their reflections as the crowd waited. Finally, the glimmer of a smile began to tug at the corner of Louis's lips. Buzzsaw, too, started to grin. The crowd stirred in relief. "Amazing," said Louis. "I've never before had something that is really so small fit so artfully on my head." "And I've never had something that is so big fit so skillfully on mine," said Buzzsaw. "What's your secret?" they asked each other at the same time. Buzzsaw spent the rest of the day showing Louis how to use scale drawings to make small things bigger. First, Buzzsaw measured every part of a life-sized object. That should sound familiar. Then, he multiplied the size of each part equally until he had created an exact model of the original object on a larger scale. So here you can see 1/16 of an inch equals 1 square. So each one of these is going to be increased so that you get a large version. Louis and Buzzsaw liked each other's work so much that they opened a new shop together. Louis scaled big things smaller and Buzzsaw scaled small things bigger. Both were amazed at the new possibilities. So Horse, Here we have ratio of 5 inches equals 1 square, 5 to 1. And here the horseshoe is 1/8 of an inch equals 1 square. And I will say that this here, that is the width of my hand, would actually fit one of the large draft horses. There are horses that actually wear a shoe this size. They can have very large hooves. They particularly enjoyed working together. The two of them made the town of Cowlick proud. After their first year as business partners, Louie and Buzzsaw had a party. They invited the whole town and gave everybody haircuts for free. People came from miles around and had a hair-clipping, floor-thumping, barn-shaking good time. And Harry found something to do with all those clippings. Here he's got glue, and he is apparently making the cow for Cowlick out of hair. Now, yes, this bovine does have horns. Sometimes people get confused and think that only bulls or oxen can have horns. Not true. I can see right here that this cow is a cow because this is an udder. So I know that this is in fact a cow for the town of Cowlick. All right, with that, I hope you enjoy learning a little bit about how you can make scale drawings of large items small or small items large, and how you can use ratios to show the comparison.